Matthew 16, starting at verse number 5. Matthew 16, starting at verse number 5. And the word of the Lord says, "And when his disciples were come to the other side, they had forgotten to take what? To take bread. Then Jesus said unto them, Take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, It is because we have taken no bread. Which when Jesus perceived, he said unto them, O ye of little faith, why reason ye among yourselves, because ye have brought no bread? Do ye not yet understand? Neither remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000 and how many baskets we took up? Neither the 7 loaves of the 4,000 and how many baskets ye took up? How is it that ye do not understand that I speak it not to you concerning bread? That ye should beware of the leaven, somebody say leaven, of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. Then understood they how that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. Meditate on this. Neighbor, oh neighbor, I have a question. Don't you remember? Yeah, don't you remember? Church life is full of ups and downs. Life is full of good times and tough times. Life is full of seasons of celebration and seasons of struggle. And as some folk put it, you are either coming out of a storm, in a storm, or headed to a storm. But the good news is that if the Lord is the captain of your ship, if the Lord is the Lord and master and ruler of your life, if the Lord is the leader of your heart, then no matter where you are in relationship to a storm, you have no reason to worry. Why? Because Jesus knows how to prepare you for a storm, walk you through a storm, and get you out of a storm. Can I get a witness? But the challenge is that whenever we face a new challenge, whenever we face a new storm, a new problem, a new obstacle, we have a tendency to get overly concerned about what we're facing. We have a tendency to get stressed out, anxious, and worried about what we are in the midst of going through. And the problem with worrying about what you are going through is that it causes you to ignore what God has already brought you out of. And instead of walking in faith and confidence that God is faithful and he will do again what he's done before, we walk in worry and doubt, wondering if the Lord is going to see us through. So today, God would have me to just lift the question, don't you remember? Ask your neighbor, don't you remember? For in our text we find the disciples confused again. Jesus had just finished challenging the traditions of the scribes and Pharisees in chapter 15. He healed the daughter of the Canaanite woman in chapter 15. He fed the 4,000 men. That's not including the women and the children. So that's at least 12,000 folk in chapter 15 with 7 loaves of fish, of bread, and a few little fish in chapter 15. And when he finishes feeding the 4,000 men, not including the women and children, with the 7 loaves of bread and a few little fish, they took up 7 baskets of leftover. And Jesus dismissed the crowd, got into a boat, and crossed over into the region of Magdala. And one day the scribes and Pharisees came and asked Jesus to show them a sign from heaven and prove his authority. And after Jesus challenged their questioning his authority, he departed from them. And later, as he crossed over to the other side, his disciples discovered that they had a problem. The disciples realized that they had forgotten to bring the food. The disciples realized they had forgotten to bring the bread. You know how it is when you go on a trip and realize you forgot to bring something you need. You know how it is when you go somewhere and you realize you forgot your wallet. You know how it is when you go somewhere and you realize that you forgot to bring something that you had to have. These disciples forgot to bring the bread. They forgot to bring the bread. They forgot to bring the bread. And you know how it is when you forget something, your mind goes on what you forgot. Oh my goodness, we forgot the bread. What we gonna do? Jesus he ain't gonna be too happy about this. We're gonna have to say something, but we ain't gonna say nothing about it right now. We're gonna wait a while. We'll find a good time to break the news to Jesus that we didn't bring the bread. And then Jesus speaks up. He says, take heed and watch out. Beware of the leaven or the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. And when Jesus said something about leaven or yeast, the disciples started reasoning among themselves, discussing among each other that it must be because they didn't bring the bread. Stressing out over the fact that they had forgotten the bread, frustrated over the fact that, hey, they ain't forgotten the bread, very concerned, and talking about the fact that they had no bread. Why? Because when Jesus told them to beware of the leaven or the yeast or the Pharisees and Sadducees, all they heard was leaven, yeast, and assumed that he was talking about bread. All they heard was leaven and yeast, and because their mind was already on the bread, that they assumed that Jesus must have been talking about the bread. But how many know that when you are guilty, when you are wrong, when your mind is already set on what you did, you hear what you want to hear. When stuff is already on your mind and folks start talking to you, you don't hear what they said. You interpret what they say through what's already on your mind. You interpret what they said through your own pain. You interpret what they said through their own problem. You interpret what they said through your own self-esteem. You interpret what they said through your own hurts and your own past and your own failure and your own mistake. The disciples, they forgot to bring the bread. Jesus started talking about leaven and yeast of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He even said the Pharisees and the Sadducees. How you get bread out of that? And all the disciples heard was bread. He must be upset because we forgot the bread. He must be angry because I can't believe we forgot the bread. I can't believe who was supposed to bring the bread? Whose fault? Who was supposed to pack it up? Who was supposed to put it on the boat? I can't believe y'all forgot the bread. What we gonna do since we don't have any bread? What we gonna eat? What we gonna do? What's going to happen now? We're on the boat with no bread. Do you hear their anxiety? Do you hear their stress? Do you hear their frustration? But guess what, church? Jesus wasn't even talking about bread. But because, you see, he didn't even bring up bread. How you stress out over something Jesus didn't even bring up? But because Jesus mentioned yeast in his statement, they heard what they wanted to hear instead of what Jesus said. They heard what their guilt wanted them to hear instead of what Jesus said. They heard what their mistake wanted them to hear instead of what Jesus said. They heard what their past pain wanted them to hear instead of what Jesus actually said. Question: how well do you hear? Do you hear what folks actually say, or do you hear through your own pain, through what happened in the past? Are you punishing somebody today for what happened to you? Yes, they ain't even say that about no bread. Do you hear what folks say, or do you hear what your past wants you to hear? Do you hear what folks say, or do you hear what your past failures want you to hear? Do you hear what the Lord is saying to you, or are you hearing what your self-esteem wants you to hear? Jesus wasn't even talking about bread, and all his disciples heard was bread. And they started talking, discussing, fussing, and stressing over not having any bread. Oh, but when Jesus realized what they were discussing, fussing, and stressing over, Jesus stopped them and said, "Oh, you of little faith, why are you discussing amongst yourselves the fact that you have no bread? Why are you so stressed out about this bread? Do you not understand yet? Do you not get it yet? Do you not understand yet? Don't you remember the 5 loaves of bread that we used to feed the five loaves of bread that we used to feed the 5,000 men, not counting women and children, and all the baskets of leftover we had left? Or don't you remember the 7 loaves of bread I used to feed the 4,000 men, not counting the women and children, and all the baskets we had left? How is it now that you don't understand that I'm not talking about bread? How is it that you don't understand I'm not worried about bread? When we didn't have enough to feed the 5,000, I multiplied what we had. When we didn't have what we needed to feed the 4,000, I multiplied what we had. And if we don't have enough food on this boat right now, I can do what I've already done again. I can do what you saw me to do again. I did it before, and I can do it. I can do it again. I'm not talking about bread. I'm talking about the yeast, the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. I'm talking about corrupt teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Beware of the corruption of your leaders. Don't let their corruption get inside of you. Don't let their corruption become a part of you. Don't let their corruption become from your corruption. Why? Because it's just take a little yeast. It starts off real small. It just takes a little yeast. If you put a little bit in it, it'll affect the whole loaf. If you put a little yeast in it, it'll affect the whole cake. And if the teaching and the corruption, the little bit of corruption that they give you, it'll corrupt your whole life. So stop worrying about bread and beware of the corrupt teaching of your leaders. Why are you stressing over bread? Why are you worried about what you've already seen me do before? Why are you so worried about what I've already delivered you from before? Why are you worried about what I've already brought you out of before? Why? What I did last time, I can do it again. Question: what did I do the last time you were hungry? What did I do the last time you needed to pay a bill and you didn't have the money? What did I do the last time you didn't have a job? What did I do the last time? Don't you remember? Don't you remember? Don't you remember? I blessed you before and I bless you again. I fed you before and I'll feed you again. I healed you before and I'll heal you again. I made a way out of no way before and I'll make a way out of no way again. I showed up before and I'll show up again. I worked it out for your good before and I'll work it out for your good again. All I need you to do is just remember that the same God that blessed you before will bless you again. The same God that brought you out before will bring you out again. The same God that paid your bill before will pay your bill again. The same God that showed up before will show up again. The same God, the same God, the same God that multiplied your bread before will multiply your bread again. For Jesus chastised his disciples because of their lack of faith. He said, ye a little faith. What's the matter to you? Their faith was little. Why? Because instead of remembering what the Lord had already done, they were worried about the problem that they were currently facing. Why? Because when they were facing this problem, they focused on the problem instead of the problem solver. Oh, church, how many know that no matter what problem you have in your life, you don't have to worry about it as long as you got the problem solver. As long as you got the problem solver. If you're in a fire, as long as you got the problem solver, the fire can't destroy you. No matter your problem, all you got to do is make sure you got the problem solver in your life. Take your eyes off the problem and put your eyes on the solver. These disciples kept their eyes on the problem. Now, can I tell you, if you keep your eyes on the problem, you're going to stay depressed, frustrated, angry, bitter, nasty, hateful. Everybody come around, you're going to get punished because you have got your eyes on the problem. Because the problem will make you mad. The problem will make you frustrated. But as soon as you take your eyes off the problem and put your eyes, good God Almighty. Don't you remember? Ask your neighbor, don't you remember Don't you remember the 5,000 we fed? Don't you remember the 4,000 we fed? And today God told me to tell somebody, why are you worried about this problem? Don't you remember what I've already done? Don't you remember what I've already brought you out of? Don't you remember what I've already brought you through? Don't you remember I've already spared your life? Don't you remember how I made a way before? Don't you remember how I turned it around before? Don't you remember how I transformed your life? Don't you remember how I brought you out? Don't you remember? Don't you remember? I am El Shaddai, God Almighty, the Almighty God. I am Jehovah Jireh. I am your provider. I am Jehovah Rapha. I am your healer. I am Jehovah Shalom. I am your peace. I am Jehovah Rapha. I am your shepherd. I am Jehovah Shammah. I'll always be there. I am the one who brought you out of the last storm. I'm the one who brought you up out the miry pit. I'm the one who solves your last problem. I am your problem solver. And whenever you face a problem, I need you to remember who your problem solver is. There's no problem too great, no sin too bad, no mountain too high, no valley too low that God can't fix. All you have to do is remember, 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 remember who saved you and made you whole. Who remember who forgave your sin. Remember who blessed your life. Who remember who stands with you every day. Remember who pulled you out of depression. Remember who healed your body. Remember who pulled you out of darkness. Remember who changed your life. Remember who sanctified your mind. Remember who sanctified your mouth. You didn't do it. He did it. He did it. He did it. Remember who left his throne in glory. Remember who was born wrapped in swaddling clothes. Remember who was beaten for you. Remember who was mocked for you. Stoned, beat down. He suffered for you. He bled for you. He died for you. He was buried in a barn tomb for you. But early, somebody say early, early on Sunday morning, he got up with all power. He got up with all power. He got up with all power in his hand just for you. And now he sits at the right hand of the Father, interceding just for you. His name, his name, his name. Do you know his name? His name is Jesus. 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 Alpha and Omega. The beginning and the end. The first and the last. God wants you to remember, you are not by yourself. Remember that you are never, ever, 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 never, never, ever, never, ever, ever, never. You are never alone. You ain't got to have 40 people around you. All you need is Jesus with you. Because if the Lord is with you, he'll take care of everything. Because if you have a relationship, somebody say relationship, 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 relationship with the problem solver. I ain't said about coming to church once every 2 years. I ain't talking about. But I sing in the choir. But us on the floor. I play. So that just simply means you are using what he gave you anyway. It's his body. This is my body. I do what I would. The devil is a lie. You didn't make it. You didn't make it. And when you don't, and when you are asleep, you don't even keep yourself alive. And when you leave here, you can't take it with you. It's his body. Every ability you got, he gave you. So if you have a relationship, that means y'all know each other. Y'all have a personal one-on-one. Because you got a relationship and you in good fellowship with it. He can talk to you. He can lay stuff on your heart. He can tell you some things he wants you to do. He can tell you some things he wants you to stop doing. He can tell you some stuff that he wants you to start doing. He can see, that's a relationship. That's a one-on-one. You can have one-on-one with your family, but you have a one-on-one with the Lord. If you have a relationship with the problem solver, there's no problem that he won't see you through. Don't let today's problem overshadow all the yesterday's blessings. Don't let today's problem cause you to forget what God has already done. And don't let today's problem cause you to totally ignore how good the Lord has been to you. We forgot the bread. Why y'all forget the bread? Man, we just had an all-you-can-eat buffet with 4,000 men. Not even talking about what the world wrong with you. You watched me multiply bread before. Why you worried about bread? Don't you know I am the bread of life? So when problems and storms show up in your life, don't panic. Remember. Don't stress out. Remember. Don't go crazy. Remember. Don't start flipping out. Remember. Don't lose your mind. Remember. Don't start taking out your fear on everybody around you. Don't start punishing folk that love you.
Go preaching.
Remember, because faith says the same God that did it before has the power to do it again. Remember, God told me to tell you to remember. Come on, give him praise. Let's all stand together. There may be somebody here unsaved, unchurched. If you don't know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, if you don't know Jesus Christ as the Lord of your life, if he's not in charge,